visitor tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to call a committee meeting of the Ellwood City Area School District to order on Monday, August 11th, 2014. Before we go into our business part of the meeting, we have Mayor Anthony Ford here. He has a presentation he'd like to make. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. I won't take a lot of time here. I know it's very important issues, but this is also important. I want to recognize Mr. Frank Ellwood for his service to our community and to the school district for 50 years. A combination from my mayor's office and our community. If you would stand up here, Frank, please. Mr. President, if you come up here also. I read this. A couple photos to be taken, and we'll be on our way. This commendation is for Mr. Frank Ellwood. As mayor, I commend you for the service and knowledge you have shared with the future generations of students and faculty. You have shown them your education to the school district by placing the needs of education ahead of your own personal needs. You are to be commended for such a sacrifice. Congratulations. We hope you enjoy your retirement. On behalf of the community of Ellwood City. If we get some photos, that would be great. Frank, congratulations. Well deserved.
You want to do one over here with them?
Yeah.
One more. That was about.
No, couple more.
How many more you want, Mayor?
2 more.
One, two. One more. One, two, three. Okay.
Thank you. I'm going to take some time here. Ledger was going to come, but they told us if we could take the picture, they'll run it. Eric had to go to Riverside for something tonight. It'll be on ElwoodCity.org also, and maybe the Newcastle News.
Thank you.
No, again, Frank, thank you.
I'm going to say a few words. First of all, I would like to thank you for giving me this commendation. I appreciate your thoughtfulness, and I appreciate all you do for the district. You've been a supporter of our district for years. We're fortunate to have you as a mayor. Also, I want to say a few words. I know you'll probably be here at about 11:30, 12. So, first of all, in reflecting back over my years in the district, I've been very fortunate to work with some good quality people. I learned more from them than they could have learned from me. I really appreciate that. Also, my wife for being supportive. She's been true, a wife for me and the children. And I really appreciate that. Also, I would like to thank the board, the administrators, the teaching staff, and non-professional staff for all their support throughout the years. We had a good relationship, and I really enjoyed it. I want to conclude by saying there's a few board members that started with me throughout my tenure, and I really appreciate their leadership and their professionalism. They really did a good job. They were always trustworthy, forward, they give you their opinion, but they always made decisions based on what was best for kids. I really appreciate that. And again, I wish Mr. Mancini, the administrative staff, and the board all the luck in the world. I appreciate working with you in the district. It was really great.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Keep up the great work. I'll be out of your way.
Come back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good job. This is where I started.
I know.
Hey, he's on the clock. We gotta get him back to work. See you guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor.
There you go.
All right, thank you. Okay, we'll go into our superintendent's report for the first time. Mr. Mancini.
Turn revenue and finance over to Mr. Jerome.
We'll have our regular monthly reports, as many as I can get prepared for Thursday. That'll include an amended tax duplicate. There's always some changes between June and August when I get the actual duplicates from the assessor's office. Number three, I'm going to ask Mr. Vaquero at some point here for a little bit of help. This was on the agenda at one point earlier, I think in March, where Mr. Mazan had purchased a property in Summit Avenue in Beaver County. He had asked for tax forgiveness on it, and we kind of presented it to the board. It was a very vague request that he had made, and the board declined to put it on the agenda. I followed up with an email, had some conversations back and forth with him, and what the issue is that he bought the property in Beaver County at a judicial sale, which means that a judge in Beaver County exonerated the taxes, or I guess the wording is divested the taxes, which means he no longer has to pay them. The issue is that they were divested in Beaver County, but he pays his property taxes in Lawrence County. So the question now becomes is, can we or should we notify Lawrence County that he bought this property with the expectation that all the taxes were to be exonerated? So I'm coming to the board again with a follow-up request, and I think what the idea is maybe the board would want to notify Lawrence County, if it's the board's intention, that the taxes were forgiven by Beaver County with the intent to be forgiven, and that they should be exonerated in Lawrence County as well. So Mr. Vaquero, I don't know if I covered that clearly enough, or whether you have anything you might want to add.
I think the only other question really is whether Beaver County Court can exonerate taxes collected in Lawrence County. If you recall, this goes back to, we had a meeting with the Lawrence County Commissioners to try to get them to talk to the Beaver County Commissioners to address this. I really think the overall solution is to have Beaver County collect that portion of that taxes, and it solves the problem. But for this particular issue, if the board's inclined to exonerate them, I'd go ahead and vote to do that anyway, even if they were already exonerated by the court. Then it eliminates any question, and we can address the issue going forward.
Does he plan on paying the taxes going forward?
From, I think,
The
2014.
board actually did this once back in 2009 or 10, I believe, and he has kept current on all of his taxes on the property that he bought, I believe on Summit Avenue as well, back in 2009-10. So he's honored and he's done what he said he was going to do.
It's only the back taxes, Ms. Panzer, because they would have, let's say it was all in one county, they would have been exonerated.
Yeah, but I just remember for other property holders, it's been an issue, what we can do.
Correct. And there was, I think those ones might have been where they bought the property and didn't realize there were back taxes, maybe. For some of them where we only went back so far.
How much does the taxes do? I mean, I guess he paid for it
I
already,
think
right?
that the assessed value is fairly low on the property, so there's not going to be too much. And the assessed value on the total property is $12,000. So, I mean, they're not much more than $150 to $200 every year. But I'll get the exact number for you. I'll go back and get the calculation.
And we're not really losing to you getting those taxes in.
Right, they don't know the tax rolls are paying them now, so.
So I'll have that on the agenda unless I hear otherwise. Number four, we did go through a process to determine a vendor for a new telephone system. We had several meetings and finally settled on a company by the name of Advent. The total cost of the new system, which is going to be district-wide, is $99,912.58. So I went to ESB, was able to get a 5-year loan at 2.4%, which means we'll have annual payments of $21,488 approximately, which is a little less than what we had budgeted. So we'll have the resolution, a commitment letter, and a sample note submitted for board consideration on Thursday evening. We have one per capita tax refund in the amount of $29.40 plus interest, which has been verified by the Ellwood City Tax Collector. So that will be on the agenda Thursday. And the number 6, National Joint Powers Alliance, that's actually a purchasing cooperative. Right now, Steve and I are looking at uniform vendors, uniform mop vendors. And instead of having to go through a sealed bid process, we have 2 vendors, one that is affiliated through state bids with this National Joint Powers Alliance, and the other one that's with U.S. Community. So it gives us the option to deal with both vendors to get the best pricing we can, but we have to sign up and be a member of this particular alliance so that I can deal with Universe. So I'm not sure that we're going to use it, but we will submit to the board a resolution on Thursday so that we can become a member and give us that option and flexibility. And that's it under revenue and finance.
Is there a charge for becoming a member for this?
No cost.
Personnel go through executive, over to education. Midwestern Intermediate Unit 4 substitute shortage verification. It's just a verification that we've advertised. We have substitute shortages. And we will be able to use MIU4's guest teacher training program, where they vote, people get a certification to, a short certification to substitute in school. And they will be able to apply through Kelly also. So Kelly has already met and said that they will take those people once we go with Kelly Services for our substitutes. Yeah. Well, they won't be in place till October 1st, Kelly, but people that get this emergency certification can go through Kelly, and then we can call them as subs.
So Kelly's not up in place from the beginning of the school year?
Not till probably October 1st.
What happened?
Just got going late. We had some meetings that, and some contract issues that had to be worked out, some language, I believe, in the contract, and then they have to do training yet, and so we're going to start the year off with our regular substitute process. Then, you know, we're looking for a timeline of October 1st for Kelly to take over.
So then we have to, excuse me, you have to monitor.
Sure.
Well, it's not too bad, is we have 3 days the first week, 4 days the second week, 4 days the third week. So the first 3 weeks of school, we were okay because there's only 3 or 4 days of school. So just for a couple of weeks, we'll have to monitor for Obamacare.
One of,
Question I was gonna ask is, do you know why we advertised it for subs?
Well,
I didn't realize that.
yeah.
so back to this though, with Kelly Services in place, we should never have to worry about subs.
We hope, right. They should all be filled by Kelly. Right.
Because these are actually, if I'm reading this right, these aren't actually
Teacher
certified
certified,
teachers.
college,
So
yeah.
why would you want them?
Well, they can go through Kelly. We get down to shortages, I mean, we need people. It's like toward the end of the year,
They should have that. I mean, that shouldn't be our responsibility.
eventually
anymore.
Kelly's gonna take care of it, correct.
But they're going to use these also.
We have the right to deny people also through Kelly. We can say, we don't want this, you know, we can deny people, if they sub once and we say, principal say, you know, Kelly, we don't want this person back, we have that right to do that.
The teachers will evaluate each sub as they come in. There's an evaluation form, so each teacher will have the opportunity to evaluate the sub that is in, and then they pass it on to our clerical people, and pass it on to Kelly, and that will enable them to determine the quality that they're providing to us.
I just don't know if I like the idea of them not being actually certified.
We've used them.
I mean, how do you?
Oh, yeah.
how-
Oh, yeah.
Anybody with a degree
Sure.
can take a test
Yep.
and be a substitute teacher, because there's such a shortage.
They go through a 3-day process at the IU, they go through a training at the IU, and they get a certification. We've used those in the past.
'Cause now Kelly, like when we're using their services and you call for a substitute, do they let you know whether it is a actual teacher
Well,
or it
from
is?
what I understand from Kelly, we haven't been trained on it, it's done all online. So the teacher would go online, you know, sick, and then the substitutes would get notification, and they would click into it, and they would become a sub that day. Or we also have the right to call Kelly for teachers to get sick during the day,
So you don't know who's coming, so you can't say, you don't even know whether you're getting an
We have to
actual
be
English
trained yet.
teacher? Okay,
okay?
wow.
Yeah. Okay, second one, paeducator.net, that's our clearinghouse for application process for the district. We take all applications for teaching, aides and so on through that. It's been pretty useful for us. So there's an annual cost there of $21.75 that'll be on for elementary intramural activity sponsor. Letter from Mr. Keeley asking for establishment of a elementary intramural program, and the fee is there that the person will earn 4 units, $500. Differentiated supervision plan, that was in your packet. This may take a little bit more explaining than usual, but we used to have a differentiated supervision plan here years ago. When Race to the Top kicked in, we kind of got away from it. And then the state came back and said, you can go back, and start using differentiated supervision. And, the whole plan was kind of a pieced together from our old one and some other ideas from the state. When they allowed it, they kind of limited the way that you can use a differentiated supervision plan for evaluating staff. It's a growth plan. That's the way we look at it. What it'll do basically is teachers can rotate through the observation process, which is the state's kind of turnaround, and they know it's a long process with this new teacher evaluation, and that it takes a lot of time for both staff and principals to get teachers through that process. So what they've done is allow districts to put a certain amount of teachers through that process and a certain amount of teachers through this differentiated plan where teachers do their own self-professional development, working with other teachers, approval of principals, check-ins with the principal, and at the end of the year report out on how what they learned. They set up a goal. We have a program called PA-ETEP, which guides that whole process, just like our observation process, so it's streamlined a little bit. But the differentiated supervision plan, most districts are going with that just because of the new demands on the time factor for the observation process for principals and teachers. So this is kind of the state version of it and what they allow. Before it was more wide open. You can do pretty much what you wanted in your differentiated plan, but they've streamlined it to like 3 options, which is peer coaching, where teachers get into each other's rooms and observe each other and give input and feedback and report back to principals. There's research action plans that they can get involved in. If it's something they want to try out in their classroom, try something new and report out on how that's worked. And also portfolio, keeping a portfolio of a certain goal they want to get done in their classroom or some specific component in the framework that they want to get done. So we're asking for approval of this differentiated plan for administration to work with teachers and guide that process.
Joe, would we be able to see some of those plans?
Will you, as a board?
Yeah.
We probably could do something at the end of the year, maybe like a presentation. That's part of the process. Is one of the last in-service days is the teachers that are in the differentiated supervision plan are going to get together and report out to each other on what they've learned, what they worked on. So maybe we can get a sampling of some teachers to present at the end of the year here.
I'd like to see that up front, see it up front,
Okay.
instead of see what's going on.
So then they rotate from what I'm gathering. So how often is the official?
Observation, like every 3 years. You can have an option of every 3 years or every 4 years to go through. So we're going every 3. I know some school districts are going every 4 years and put them back through that observation piece. But with the still all of our teachers are always getting walkthroughs. Our principals are always going to do walkthrough observations on all the staff, no matter what, just to stay in touch with them, walk into their classroom, see what's going on. So no matter what, there's going to be some type of observation, but when they're in that observation mode, it's more intense. It's going to be 4 walkthroughs. It's that full observation process that the state is every 3. Okay. Yes.
Quick question on,
Yep.
on number 3, since Mr. Healy's over here. Is that something new?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit the theory behind it.
just want, looking to get kids more active, just by my experience dealing with these younger kids on a more daily basis. With so many of them spend so much time in school, out of school, et cetera, sitting around, trying to add an hour of activity, maybe a week, maybe every couple of days to them. It's really, you know, it's very beginning of the planning stages, but I figure if I get the right sponsor, I've already had Mr. Kalau order hockey equipment for me, so they're gonna play a little floor hockey right after school. No one's gonna go home. They're gonna have all their permission slips formed, ready to go. They'll have a running clock for a period. They'll shoot a hockey ball at nets, and after X amount of time, a second group of 2 teams will come on and play. Within an hour, it'll be shut down, and it just depends on interest. You know, I can imagine grade level teams, I can imagine mixed teams, I can imagine co-ed teams, I can imagine boys teams, girls. The options are limitless, but the fundamental reason is these kids gotta move a little bit more, and I think for minimal investment up front and for not a whole lot of planning, honestly, to be involved, it gets these kids going in something I think they'd be interested in. I did a little interest survey with some kids, real informal last year, and I didn't get a bad word out of a lot of kids. A lot of kids, they seemed real interested in it, so I thought it was a good idea to proceed.
Frank, it's something well,
Yeah, the first go around, we're just gonna play hockey, and I don't even have a timeline. It might be 8 weeks, might be, I don't know. It just depends on where everything goes, and everyone will play once or twice. It's just a matter of getting it worked out. We haven't done it the first time, but I don't plan on doing more than a floor hockey, and I don't plan on doing more than 1 season the first year, and we'll see where it goes from there. But in my mind, something's better than nothing, and right now we got nothing, and I just think these kids that are doing nothing, they gotta have that chance to get out there and do it. And it's a good chance to have kids develop as leaders too, because they're not gonna have coaches. You know what I mean? You're gonna have, in my mind, it's co-ed 5th and 6th grade teams. You know what I mean? And there's a 6th grader who's quote unquote the captain. And they're making up a lineup for the first period, second period, third period, fourth period of this hockey game. And they're going to town, they're being a leader, and they're developing these skills, and they're playing, and they're moving around. To me, it's a win-win.
So is this K through 6?
5 and 6 only, right after school.
Just a quick comment, my only reservation here is if we're approving a 5 and 6 intramural program, then what happens whenever they say we want to start a 5 and 6 basketball program, we're going to pay them, or we want to start a 5 and 6 tennis program, we're going to start paying.
Well, this isn't a hockey pro, this is intramural. It's not.
It could be anything?
It can be anything.
Yeah.
And I'm making this up as I go. So it's not about, it's not sports specific, and actually, as far as interschool sports, it's interschool sport neutral.
Right.
It's not any of the sports that we have, because you start basketball and then you get the wrestling team wanting to get in. Why are we not?
Right.
So that's one of the main reasons I picked hockey and only hockey, because it's
Right.
neutral.
Okay,
Properties and transportation, there's a list of bus drivers from Ellwood City Transit, van drivers, monitors for approval.
Mr. Mancini,
Yes.
I will be voting no on that. Okay.
Facilities requests, ones that are enclosed. Band boosters requesting permission for Helling Football Stadium Complex, restrooms, and so on for the Pie Festival, August 21st, 2014, from 3 o'clock to 10 o'clock. Ellwood City Amateur Baseball Federation requesting use of Friedhoff in Sanders Field, August 1st through October 19th, for minor Little League fall baseball. Games are on Saturday and Sunday afternoons. Ellwood City, yes.
They're aware of our Sunday use policy. They
Yes,
sure
Mike,
are.
are you aware of it?
Yeah, they sure are.
We're gonna hold you to
They
that,
don't
Mike.
use facilities until after 1 o'clock.
Leroy, will never find out.
Okay.
He's gonna drive past
Didn't
now.
you know that?
No, I did
Give
not
him
know
his
that.
stink eye. He's gonna have to miss church to drive.
About 4 or 5 years.
2 o'clock to 5 o'clock.
No, no.
Me and Vinny will order the check.
That's right. Guy on the bike and his dog.
See, Ellwood City Community Enrichment, subsidiary of the Ellwood City Chamber of Commerce, is organizing a storytelling festival Sunday, September 20th, 2014, from 4 to 7:30 in Ewing Park. They requested the use of Lincoln High School gym and restrooms in case of inclement weather. Just one comment on this that Steve and I have talked about. The only issue with this is that custodian has to be on call during this time. So we have to have whoever's in charge of the gymnasium that day kind of waiting around to see if they're, what the weather's gonna do. So it kind of takes their day away, whoever's in charge of that gymnasium. Kind of, they don't know what the weather is, all of a sudden they get the call, they're gonna move it in the gym, now the custodian's gotta come over. They can't leave town, they can't go eat out, they eat with their family. Just an issue that Steve had brought up and we talked about that, so just be aware that there's gonna be a custodian sitting, not here, but at home, waiting for the call. So I don't know, we talked about compensation possibly, just because they're waiting, just because if it rains or not, or the
Is
weather.
that addressed in their collective bargaining for you to be on call?
No, it's just that if they do use it, we have a customer, who's gonna open? Who's gonna be there? I mean, it's there.
They would have to know by a reasonable time to get that set up. There's an extent, have you ever been down there?
Well, that's fine,
It's
but
extensive.
just,
I mean, there's space painting and there's a lot of stuff that would
Yeah,
be.
you would think they would know by a certain time of that
I
day.
would think they'd know pretty early
Well,
on.
last
Is
year
there
they
a
had to
certain-
cancel when they canceled on Friday and moved it in to the meeting
right,
Friday.
okay,
Yeah, I don't think
all right.
they would know by noon the dates.
D,
I
like,
would say give them a time.
give them a time to
Yeah.
cut off.
Yeah, give them a time, say if you don't call us by this time, then the answer is no. You can't, or change it to another day. That's what I would say. Don't put anybody on call.
D,
Be on call for a little while until whatever time sets.
And if they were on call, they can pass the expense on to them, right? And there's no expense to be on call. I mean, if they're requesting the facility, I know it's Chamber of Commerce and they're doing it as a kind of community event, but, they should have. I think just letting them know there's a time period they have to cancel that should solve the
we'll
problem.
let them know.
Or have a custodian volunteer if they want to do that, and then have the chambers.
Who?
They're not allowed to.
Oh, they're not allowed, sorry. No, I would say a custodian. If they say, I'll be on call, no.
Your union will say, you can be on call for a certain fee.
Okay, D, Lincoln High School Blue Band Boosters request use of the visitor side concession stand for the 2014 home football games at Helling Stadium. Number 3 there, I'll turn over to Rich, because there's a lot of numbers in that one.
What that basically is saying, number 3, diesel fuel. We are part of the Western Pennsylvania Gasoline and Diesel Fuel Consortium. Traditionally, at this point in time, they're going out and getting bids and locking the price. But for some reason or other, it turned out that we had approximately 167,000 extra gallons that went unused during the 13-14 school year. So the vendor has promised to honor the price from last year. So for the first 167,000 gallons of all the cooperating schools, we'll get last year's prices, and then at some point when those are near depleted, they'll lock a firm price for the rest of the 14-15 school year. And I guess while I'm at it, I can move on to number 4, which is the filled quantity change orders, acknowledgements. Those are basically the change orders that have gone on for this particular project. And bottom line is, we're pretty much at breaking even until this most recent development happened. So the stuff I'm passing out now came in after business hours today. And I just kind of want to go over that if I could. There's one more here. I don't know if you noticed, because it's so dark and dreary, there's one more outside when you came in. But on the side of the building here, I guess it's the west side of the building, there are 4 windows. They're in the small gymnasium. And as they were doing some of the brick brickwork, they pulled it back and found out that the steel beams that are above the windows have rotted out in 3 cases. And I guess the way what's happening is that the windows are actually supporting the weight of brick, and the steel beams have rotted to the point where they have to have something done. So this is going to be a change order that will take us now. We're not a break-even project anymore. We're going to go beyond that, but it's something I think that probably has to be done now that we have discovered it. So I gave you 2 pieces of paper. One is a proposal from the architect. They had to bring a structural engineer in, so they're indicating in that particular 1-page document that they can do the architectural and engineering design and specification at an hourly rate which would not exceed $4,800. And the second document is an analysis and study with pictures of what they found when they went up in the lift and started looking at these steel beams. And I'm not really that technologically astute, but when you look at page 1 of 3, the top 2 pictures, I think that kind of tells the story of the condition of those steel beams. It's page 1 of 3, lintel number 2. You can see where that steel is just rusted to the point where you can see the brick on the other side of it. And then as you page through the pictures, you can see additionally how they have rusted out and worn away. And, at this point, I guess one of the windows is starting to twist, and if enough pressure is put upon that window, it can literally twist and fall to the ground. I don't know how close we are to any of that. They've not said that we can't use the gym. And then he has in this letter given us 2 possible alternatives, 2 schemes. One seems to be less expensive than the other, and I apologize for not having information. I will gather additional information cost-wise as best I can for Thursday. But I just wanted to make you aware that something will be coming through, and that I'll share that information Thursday, again, as best I can. The idea would be that we would go to the existing contractor, Alex Construction. We have basic costs in the bid process that we went through, so they would submit a bid to the architect. He would analyze that bid in conjunction with what the bid numbers were, make sure that the pricing is fair and equitable, and then we go ahead and process a change order. I'm kind of hoping that could go forward for Thursday, because we want to, while the contractors are mobilized and while they're here, we would like to get it taken care of. So what my hope is that when we get through what's the general fund audit, we're still working on that. I'm kind of hoping that we have a surplus, that we can transfer some money into the capital reserve fund to take care of this particular issue. The architect did caution me that if we have this situation with these 3 windows, we probably have a similar situation in other places on the building. So at some point, probably sooner as opposed to later, we're going to want to commission the architect to take a look at that, because I mean it could be a danger. We don't want to push any panic buttons. We want to address these things as we become aware. So that's where we are, number 4. I really thought we were going to get away break even on this project, but it just didn't work out. The other thing that's in that number 4 is that we did have an opportunity to re-shingle a portion of the auditorium roof. As Steve and I talked about with the architect, the shingles are 4 years old. Steve indicated to me that there's no heat under those shingles, so therefore they should last a whole lot longer than normal. So we're suggesting and recommending that we do approve a change order deleting the re-shingling, which saves us about $8,800. So I mean, we will have some money to play with some credits we have coming back, and some not shingling that particular auditorium roof. So I don't know what the total cost will be at this point, but again, I'll gather that up as best I can for Thursday. Any questions that I can try to address? Steve, anything that I missed?
No, I don't know if they understand what they're looking at in those pictures or not, but the lintels that go across the windows, they're not like an L lintel like most of us are acquainted with from our houses and stuff. This is a little more technical lintel. It's built like a box. Picture a long box that's hollow in the middle, and it's roughly 8 inches, 6 inches high by 12 inches deep going into the old gym, and then 6 inches up, and then of course 12 inches on the return. So it's built like a box. The outer part of that box is what you're looking at that's rotted away. The inner parts are all fine. I don't know how they're going to do it, whether they're going to weld it or bolt it or what, the outer part. But they basically, they gave us two options. One, we can tear it out completely, which I don't think you should do. And the other option is to just reface that lentil, so it'll, because it's solid, and they pointed out that you can still see the primer when you look through the holes. You can still see the primer on the inner side of the box. So it's probably pretty solid. It's probably okay, in my opinion. And I feel that strongly because the primer paint is still on the lentil. So basically what they'll probably do is just weld a face plate of steel on there and brick it back up. Although I'm sure it won't be that, cheaply, but,
Yeah, you make it sound a lot cheaper.
Yeah, and I said to the guy, because I used to do this for a living, and I said to the guy, I kind of wish I was back in a business, because I'd like to have that job, but,
So what causes, first, it's great to have you back, I'm glad you're better.
thanks.
What causes that rusting?
Water leaking in through the brick, through cracks in the mortar joints, the bed joints, could be anything. There's a particular way that you have to do a lentil, and you put this other piece of metal, and it's usually brass, and it protects that lentil. But back then, when they did these, they didn't do it like that. They just put the lentils up, and away they went, So that was, of course, exposed to any type of cracking in any joint, exposed it. And the thing about steel, number one, it draws moisture to begin with, steel does. I don't know if any of you guys have ever run a torch across a piece of metal, but it'll turn wet before it'll start burning. It's just like a sponge. And this thing here is not only that, but now it had the water leaking in, so it's like compounding the problem. We're lucky we found it, actually. That could have been a real disaster.
How old would you say that system was in place from when it was built?
Yeah, I'd say since the window was put in anyway. And I'm leaning towards since it was built.
And so that would be close to 80 years.
Yeah,
Out there,
and when you look at the picture of the window itself, at the top where it meets the lentil, you're going to see a piece of angle. That angle has nothing to do with the lentil. That is part of the window construction. A lot of people look at that angle because of your house, the way it's built, and think that's the lentil. That's not the lentil. The lentil's on top of that angle.
That's what I can see that problem.
Okay, number 5, security services. Administration met with Capital Asset Protection and CNC Security, discussed the weekend security services. Capital Asset for 13-14 set the hourly rate at $15.60. We'll maintain that. CNC was $21 per hour. We are recommending, again, we go with Capital Asset to provide the Saturday security for $14.15. Gym floor maintenance and repair. Building and grounds budget was prepared during Mr. Schuster's absence, and there was no allocation to clean and screen recoat the gym floor. Additionally, there's a section of the floor in the small gym that needs attention as well. The administration is requesting authorization to utilize the athletic facility funds to pay for that. There's approximately $35,000 in that fund, so it covered it. The phone contract, as Mr. Zerona mentioned, with Advent, we looked at 4 vendors. Advent came in at the lowest based on the board's previous authority. Purchase order was issued to Advent. The administration is recommending a 4-year maintenance agreement be put in place commencing with the 13th month, primarily to receive patches and software upgrades over that time period. And the monthly charge is $200 per month for 48 months. Student affairs, the annual FERPA, those to parents and eligible students will need to be board approved. It's board approved each year. Non-discrimination statement also needs to be approved each year. A service agreement with Glade Run Lutheran Services, who we send students to. We have 5 students there this year, and this is just the agreement and outlines the responsibilities for both, each entity, us and them, when we send the students there. And you see the costs that range from $21,000 to $34,000 roughly to send students for slots there. Agreement with Human Services, who we use for our SAP, Student Assistance Program for drug and alcohol, mental health services. They have a counselor that comes in. Also, with peer leadership training, the price is unchanged from last year. and we'd like to recommend that that occurs again. Number 5, Beaver Valley Intermediate Unit ESL agreement. See the cost of our ESL students who we contract out for the 14-15 school year. We have an increase of some students for ESL, and the cost is there $54,252, which is up from the year before when we had 6 students. So we had 2 new students coming that need ESL services that we contract out with. We're adopting the revised graduation policy requirement, which will be approved this board meeting. Also, the agreement with Butler County Community College for college in the high school, offering the college courses here at the high school, will be submitted. The Keystone Smiles AmeriCorps agreement will be submitted to the board for consideration. The agreement provides an overview of the program, host site agreement, information on host site personnel, financial responsibilities, and so on. Web hosting agreement, Cooper Institute, Mrs. Leonberg got this. It will be submitted for the board. It's for FitnessGram, an application that will be used by her in her phys ed classes in the district. She's a district wellness coordinator to evaluate the fitness level of district students. The parents can track their work in phys ed classes and so on, and she's paying this with the High Mark grant, which she received. It cost $200. And we have a tuition student, Karen Knox, has submitted a request to allow her grandson Tyler Knox, a resident of Beaver Falls, to attend Hartman Intermediate School as a tuition student for 14-15. Tyler attended Perry last year and was a tuition student also.
Is there a reason why he comes up here?
Well,
Or just they don't like Beaver Falls?
well, I can't speak for them, but I know that probably Mr. Keeley probably could speak also, but they wanted to maintain the level of where he was at when he moved in the middle of the year, and they wanted to continue that last year. So they made him a tuition student last year, and they want to continue that also.
So they moved from Ellwood
The
to
Beaver,
Falls.
and they paid last year, yeah.
Yeah.
So miscellaneous PSBA voting delegates, encloses a memo from PSBA in regards to appointment of voting delegates. If you have any interest, I guess you're supposed to see me.
There was no info in there on it, because I wondered what it was, but I went through it twice and didn't find anything, and then
We'll get that tomorrow morning. And current enrollment, for August was also closed. Oh, I'm sorry, there were some additions. Thank you. The instructional aid recommendation, that's personnel, so I'm sorry. And properties and transportation, Ellwood City's Lions Club attaches request from the Ellwood City Lions Club for authorization to collect donations for the White Cane campaign. Benefits a blind outside of Helling Stadium on football games on September 26th. I think they've done that every year. Yeah. And again, Mr. Zerone, the beam replacement attaches a proposal submitted by HHSDR to provide professional architectural engineering services for replacement of 3 beams of the large windows in the gym. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Mancini. Go to our visitors before we go to executive. Mr. Cunningham, nice to see you back again.
The bus direction detour for Second Street, that's all been taken care of. Did you guys have to meet with the police department? Are they gonna put, like, there's crosswalk signs up, even though they're not crosswalks there, but something to slow that
I'm
traffic
meeting with the
down?
bus company Wednesday morning to kind of resolve issues and talk through stuff.
Because I didn't know if there were any signs out or anything. That seems to be kind of effective. Just put something for them to drive around every time they come through an area. All right, thanks. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. We're gonna adjourn for the executive session now.
could I ask Mr. Furbish what has transpired?
We're I'm going into final negotiations this week with 2 investors. We're meeting Wednesday night, meeting Friday night. confident we can get the funding for the equipment and materials. Don't have the funding for a teacher at this point. So
Grant hasn't come through.
grant is not through yet. They finished their fiscal year August 4th. They were still awarding up until last week. So I've contacted the IUs to get anything, and they haven't done anything, so. That's where we are, to be honest. So my projection is, it's not a battle that I'm willing to give up, and I'm obviously going to keep fighting for it. I'm going to Pittsburgh twice this week in the evening to meet with major investors to try to help this process. If I have to open doors that semester, we can get it running up, established by December, January. We'll still shoot for this year to open it up and running. So that's what I'm working on right now. Still pounding it.
I believe they didn't tell you about the grant.
I know.
Jeez.
It's very upsetting. But
Stop.
I actually contacted the National Science Foundation. I found a really nice gentleman that said, due to the overwhelming amount of proposals they had involved in the $250 million pocket of money, they were still awarded. So that's the best I have at this point. So wish I had better information, but we're getting there.
Still coming.
Yes.
Did everything work out all right then with the money, getting it into the account?
Foundation money, yeah, we're
It's
gonna be
all
fine
good.
with the foundation. I'm probably not, is the camera on?
Yeah.
Okay. Working with the Forge is highly interested in working with us. They've actually listed some components that they want to build into the lab. Horizontal boring mill, I've actually got prices on everything that they want to include. The way their tax money was set up this year, they're going to be very lean on tax credit money this year, but they said that we will be able to submit to them going forward. It's something that they're definitely interested in working with us and training our teacher to become part of. So that
And they
they
could
can
build
use.
every year too, adding
Correct.
equipment as we go.
That's what we're going to do.
You work with Mary Ann Ladon
Yes,
on Google.
yes.
Who has access to that?
In terms of,
Students.
also, we use Moodle for Florida Virtual for all of our
All of it?
online learning, yes.
Okay.
That Moodle is, the Moodle that they've set up that's free of charge is in grades 7 through 12. We don't have elementary programs, we still broker those through Midwestern Intermediate 4 for elementary side, because there is no free
So really,
elementary
it's a
side.
private school, our own private school.
Right, through IU-27. And we still have access to that, that has not dried up yet. So we're just gonna keep moving forward on that because that is still the best deal in town.
Okay. And then we provide the computers for the kids?
Yes. We've switched over to Chromebooks within the last 2 years. Students get a Chromebook, get access, online access, and it does save the district substantially because we still get the courses for.
I was on, it seems like it's electronic work.
Yes. It's interesting. I mean, the way it's set up, it's kind of neat.
Yeah.
So, all the documents, materials, accesses, everything the student needs is housed online. And the way that they set up the perpetual license for the Florida Virtual Service, we get all the updates for free forever. If the new courses come out online to Common Core, we get those courses without charge. So, other than our Google server maintenance fee that we pay to the IU, we still get our courses for free. No, I can imagine. I don't think I would want to take a course on Russia either. But there are some really good courses on there, and our teachers have done a nice job with them. But if you ever want to see anything, I can.
Pretty much just staying out of it, have a good shot. It's pretty much self-explanatory, that's why I had it in a week, that's the traffic. Yeah, that's like YouTube. I don't know, that's just a start. Thank you. This right here is part of that.
Okay. Thanks, Steve.
You're welcome.